All right, we are back for episode 139 of Digital Divination.
And there's no Jason Keeley. It's just me, Ron Lundeen, employee of Wizards of the Coast, and the opinions I express here are mine and not theirs.
Yes, did you write that down? Looks like you're reading it.
I didn't. I just remembered it better.
Well done, well done. Yeah, unfortunately, Jason is a little tapped out. He's been doing a lot of work lately, and he's not
Ooh,
able to
I
make it.
believe that. Happens
Yeah,
to all of us. Nothing wrong with that. It's a little bit of rest is good.
yeah,
But it
yeah.
does give me the floor in order to give chicken news. I just saw you today. Since I
Yes.
saw you earlier today,
Okay.
I found somebody to take my remaining flock of 2 hens. We'd had
Oh, the
probably some
leftovers.
raccoons get in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the leftovers. And we were raising a new flock in our garage, but
Uh-huh.
one of the 9 turned out to be a rooster, a very noisy rooster. And our rule around here is if it crows, it goes. If it lays, it stays. It crowed, so it had to go. So I was looking to get rid of these 3 chickens, and a friend of a friend was happy to take them. My 2 old laying hens and my new young rooster. So I dropped those off. Earlier today, I'd also redone my whole chicken sort of run,
Yeah.
made sure that that was secure, redid a couple of the walls for that. After I rehomed the chickens, I cleaned out the old coop. I pressure washed it. I did a little bit of repairs
Wow.
and then put in new bedding, new food, new water, and moved my flock from the garage into their new home for years and years and years. So that was a very chicken exciting day
Yeah.
for them.
Now, how do they handle going from the big box to the heat lamp to the real world?
It was actually fine. They get along really well with each other. So the first one we moved in flipped out. Like the first one I handed into the new place, even though it was a lot more space, flipped out. And the second one equally flipped out. And by the time I got the third one in there, they're like, okay, there's enough people I know already here, right? I've been this way at parties, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be. Oh, there are enough people I know here. Okay, this is cool. I can be here. And then by the time we got the 8th one in, it was, where'd everybody go? Oh, there y'all are. Great. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, good, good. I'm excited. How long before they start laying?
Well, that's the thing. We don't know. These got really big really fast. Normally, it's, it's July now, as our listeners know. Normally, we don't move them from the garage into the coop until August. This is really early, but they got really big and they were really crowding each other.
Mm-hmm.
So normally they wouldn't lay until, I want to say September or October, but maybe we'll get eggs as soon as August. So
Oh, nice, nice.
we'll see.
Yeah, very excited, very excited. All right, and for that, we've concluded the chicken report.
Yes.
Now, for our next order of business, Starfinder related things. So I was,
Excellent.
as you know, Ron, I'm applying for a part-time design position.
Good. I
And
do know this would be very exciting.
yeah, and one of the things that I like about it is it takes an IP that I'm really excited about. So an actual book series, several book series, and there's a game that's kind of built in the world of the books. And so I'm kind of excited because I like the books, and I think the game is going to be a lot of fun. And to be able to play that and design for it, I think would be great. I think there's going to be literally hundreds of people applying for it. So who
Well, you've got
knows?
a lot of strong design
Yeah.
chops and you've been doing it for years and years. I
Yes.
think that you're the equal or better to a lot of these people that are going to be applying. I think your chances are good.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm not getting my hopes up because we know how hard it is to get a design job, but I
Oh
think
yes.
I think it would be great. But it got me thinking though about Starfinder Second Edition and different sci-fi IP out there that I think it would be great to use the Starfinder Second Edition rules on in order to play a game within the IP. And now some of these, the ones that I thought of, actually do have game systems, and I've seen some.
Oh, phew, because a couple of
Yeah,
mine did too, and that's
yeah,
all right.
and I think that's okay. But I'm thinking, I like Starfinder and I like Starfinder Second Edition. Well, what if we could get the license and make it for those, or even just for fun, make it for
Mm-hmm.
those? And so I've compiled my top 5 IPs that I would like to build a Starfinder conversion for.
All right, you keep going above and beyond in so many aspects of your life, John. You told me 3 with an honorable mention, so you've got
Oh,
one more than I do.
oh, shoot. I did.
No, that's
Yeah.
okay. If you go first, then we weave it together. You go last, and it looks like we just take turns all the way through.
Well, let me tell you why I moved from 3 to so the 3 was when there was 3 of us.
Oh, I see. I see. But no Jason means we've got more
Right.
time to fill.
And when we met today, I actually said, "Oh, let's do 5," but I will
Oh,
blame it on the
boo. That's
hearing
I did
aids.
not hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So,
fair. That's fair.
yeah, it's
I
okay. It
didn't hear.
happens.
And instead I filled 3 minutes of chicken report. So
Yes. So that's great. That's super. All right. So, again, I'm going to work from 5 to 2, give my honorable mention, and go to 1. That's kind of my
5 to
my order.
okay. Alrighty, makes
Yeah.
sense.
All right. So my number 5 IP out there that I would like to convert to Starfinder Second Edition to play is the Mad Max franchise. And
Ooh, this is not a surprise. You're a real post-apocalyptic fan.
yes, yes. And so, I really like that setting, and I'm thinking, what are the IPs out there that I enjoy the most? And this is maybe not the one I like the best. Actually, there's a couple I like out there quite a bit. And there's actually a television series coming out on one of them called Earth Abides. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all.
I
It's
haven't. No.
Yeah, it's kind of a post apocalyptic, but not like a major apocalypse kind of thing. Lucifer's Hammer is a book that's a
Hmm.
comet hits the earth and things, and what happens after that. Mad Max is like pushing it way, way out in the future, and of course, it's in Australia, so there's all
Right.
kinds of additional
Well,
aspects to it.
and that's really interesting about that is the Road Warrior didn't push it very far into
Mhm.
the future, and it just keeps getting further and further and
Right,
further out.
right, exactly, and it's not. The thing about this is it's not super high tech. It's not super magicy. But I like kind of the grittiness, the salvaging you have to do, the scraping together of stuff. This would include, obviously, besides the setting changes, kind of coming up with new backgrounds, new skills, uh, new types of resources that you had to utilize because you can't have all blasters and stuff, right? You're very limited to what you can do,
Hmm.
and I think this type of setting scaled back in the high tech kind of enables the players to really. I mean, a lot of us, like when we played our game with Tandro, right? Mutineer Zero, where anything you find is useful to you and your compound and pushing forward what you're able to do. And so the Mad
But
Max
is also
franchise.
expendable, which is part of that
Yes.
feel as well. Stuff's
Right.
very cobbled together, and it's only going to
Yes.
work a few times. Well, let me ask you a question. This is a question that I had when I was putting my list together, and sometimes my answer is it doesn't. But where does magic from Starfinder Second Edition fit into the setting of yours, John? The Mad Max IP.
Yeah. So in the IP itself, it doesn't seem to have magic, though it seems to have. There's a lot of cultural references. Not, I shouldn't
Hmm.
say it's not cultural references, but like customs and traditions that end up getting developed because of how they've had to adapt because of the post apocalyptic nature. And some of those could be rituals and things like that. It would definitely be a low magic kind of setting in terms of the scale of magic.
Yeah, or I think you could probably adapt that IP with a little higher magic than has been shown. If the
Right.
cult of the War Boys has some magic
Yes.
to it, that might be kind of
Yes.
interesting. If the History Man could draw upon some magic in order to pass along lore, that could be interesting.
Right, right, but you couldn't. I mean, if everybody's throwing around lightning bolts and fireballs and able to do high tech,
That
crate stuff.
you'd lose the feel. Yeah,
Right.
you'd lose the feel of that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of, maybe it's like only up to third level spells or something, would be
You know.
some way you would cap that, and of course eliminating. So anyway, that's just kind of my rough on that.
Okay.
Well, that's my number 5. Should I go to number 4 as well, and then you'll jump
Do
in?
your number 4. Do up until 2,
Oh.
and then I'll do 3 and 2. You see what I mean?
Okay. I got it. Okay. All right. So my number 4 is the Alien franchise. Again, this
Good choice.
is
Yep.
a pretty high tech, a lot of it's kind of horror and scary. And one of the things that got me thinking about this a lot is, do you remember when we first started playing Starfinder? What happened to what's it, your guy, your
Oh, when
envoy?
I got yeah, oh man, so many things went so wrong for that guy. Are you talking specifically about the time I got grabbed and dunked into the acid pool and held there?
Oh no, that's a
Or
good one. No, there was a Kasaric, a plant type creature that
that
shot
yep.
spores out into you.
And I
Uh
started like growing the spores and yeah.
yes, and they started incubating in your body, and we had to like cut them out, do damage to you, and so it really made me that kind of thing reminded me at the time of course Alien, because of the explosive emergence of the creatures. But also, again, would be a high tech area, high tech kind of content, but a lot of this alien horror in there. So
Mhm.
the xenomorphs are very scary and stuff like that. You could still have magic in this case, and I would make the xenomorph would have to have some magical components to it as well, to I think, to counter that. But the whole the fear of these things kind of incubating in the players, and what do you do when that starts happening, I think would be a very exciting thing, as it was for us, relatively low level, not knowing what to do. I mean, we're like first level, or actually it was book 3, so we're probably like fourth level at
Right.
that time. Yeah,
Right. But it's still too low to have an easy answer to what it is
right.
we were trying to do.
Yeah,
That was
no
the
greater
issue.
restoration or anything. It was,
Right.
yeah. So that was my number 4. Boy, I'm just like going all the way through these. Okay. Number 3, and this is only because I think this is just a really fun series, and I think you could do magic in this as well, but it's Firefly. Serenity of Firefly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I was gonna put Firefly on my Firefly's not on my list, but it was close. It was a close
yeah,
thing. That
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
would have been my number 4, I suppose.
yeah. Yeah, so I think it's a fun thing to play. Now we have an AP called Fly Free or Die that tries to kind of capitalize on that. Um, so I think you could actually do the whole story in Starfinder as it is, but
Mhm.
to really flavor it for that specific IPs, which what I'm talking about, I think would be a lot of fun. And people that were really into Firefly, now there is a Firefly game, so obviously they could play
The
that.
Serenity RPG, I played it,
Right.
actually. It
Yeah.
was a lot of fun.
But if you just wanted to use your Starfinder rules to do that conversion, I think would be great. Okay.
Yep.
So that's my 5, 4, and 3. You can go with 3.
My number 3 would be Dune. I
Oh,
think that
yes.
the
Yes.
obvious sort of a high tech a tech that's so high people sort of dismiss it as being kind of routine
Mhm.
is a really good feel there, and
Yes.
the voice that the Bene Gesserit use is very
Very
much
magic.
magic. So
Yes.
when I was asking the question I had for each of these, where does magic fit? That's very much the Bene Gesserit and the sort of rebel versions of that are trying to
Right.
sort of misuse the magic from their perspective, misusing the magic. I think you could have sort of a more robust magic system in Dune. That's my number 3.
No, I think that's great. In fact, I didn't really worry much about magic when I was making my choices. So had I been, I think Dune would have been there on my list. I'm just going with sci-fi type franchises I really like a lot, as
Oh,
you can
that's
probably
fine.
tell from what I'm picking. My number 2, and this is one of my most favorite franchises out there. And there's a game out there that had a massive Kickstarter for it. It's The Expanse.
Yep.
I really love the series. I really love the books. I love how realistic the technology seems. rationally, it all seems to connect and make sense. There's not a lot of black boxy kind of feel to it. It's like, oh yeah, of course this is how they do stealth things. Oh, of course this is how
Oh,
they
I
would
don't know. I don't
do
know.
whatever.
I'm disagreeing with you there. Stuff like the proto molecule and
Oh,
things like that have a
that
real
is very,
they,
yes, way
it's
out
it's a
there.
real sort of
Mhm.
mysterious, if not magical, kind of feel to it.
And the
I will
rings
say,
and all that transport.
yep.
Yes.
My
Yes.
my wife might agree with you. We were out of town for free RPG Day this year, but we were in Northern California and happened to come across a game store. I'm like, oh, let's stop in, see what's there. And they had a big table with all of the free RPG Day products on it. I said, oh, you guys are doing a free RPG Day? That's great. They said, yeah, you can take up to 3 of those. My wife looks over the 20 or 30 different offerings,
Yeah.
and the first thing she says is, ooh, the Expanse. That's what yeah, that's the one that she picked up.
Yeah. My store was really nice. I know the guy a lot. He said take whatever I wanted. So I
Yeah, I
did
didn't
not
want to
take
push it. We were
everything.
guests. We were out of
Yeah.
town.
I took 6 things, but I was the first one there. And I was there for an hour and hardly anybody took anything. So I didn't feel so bad. Yeah, I took a couple at the
Oh, okay.
beginning. Then I said, oh, well, if these aren't going like hotcakes, I'm going to take a couple more that I really want. Yeah, I enjoy
Uh,
the Expanse quite a bit. And in fact, when I get the Transport Union edition, we should probably play some Expanse.
I would love to. Yep.
All right. So,
That was your Expanse is your number 2,
yes.
right? My number 2 is Warhammer 40K.
Oh,
I know
okay.
there have actually been a lot of role playing games on
Yes.
Warhammer 40K, and Warhammer 40K is itself a game, but also a video game phenomenon. And there's
Yes.
been shorts and movies. But the world itself of sort of this, or the game universe itself of sort of this galaxy at war, and there is a lot of magic, right? Everything from Eldar psionic magic to
Yeah.
the chaos warp
Yep.
magic
Yep.
and things
Yep.
like that. It's just it does really gritty sci-fi, like super super gritty sci-fi, in a way that I think not a lot of other games have been able to capture quite so well.
Hmm. Hmm.
The few times I've played a Warhammer 40K RPG, I thought it went really well. But there is something to be said for the idea of like your kind of start out as maybe nobodies, right? Your Imperial
Hmm.
Guardsmen, or your just sort of the grunts, who in the course of Starfinder Second Edition, you would become a lot more powerful
Right.
as you complete quests and complete missions, and that kind of that zero to hero is
Hmm.
actually some of the fun novels and stories that have been set in that universe, Gaunt's Ghosts and the like, of Dan Abnett's books. I have a lot of like zero to hero feel of the people, and I think that could be really captured in Starfinder Second Edition version of Warhammer 40K.
Yeah.
That's my number
No,
2.
I think so. In very epic, the battles and stuff, you'd be very epic in terms of what you were doing.
Yep.
So I think that would be great. Well, my number one, as I'm sure everybody
Are you
knows,
doing honorable mention first or number
I know
one
honorable
first?
mention. Oh shoot, I blew that. My honorable mention is a really fun thing that I like. It's Starship Troopers. I think it's such
Oh,
a
Starship Troopers would be good. Yeah.
fun, campy. I mean, the book isn't really campy, but the movies are really campy. You know,
The movie's way
yeah.
campier than the book.
And I think that would
Um,
be I think it would be a lot of fun to play basically like the movies again, where you're starting off as grunts and you're slowly working your way through and you're against all kinds of I mean a lot of it, against against the swarm or what's the name of that AP? It's not against the swarm,
yeah,
is it?
that's right.
Is it against the swarm? The name of the overall AP?
Yes,
Yeah,
right?
I don't remember. I know it's against Aeon Throne. So
Oh, that's right. That's against Aeon Throne. Attack of the Swarm.
Attack of the Swarm. Yeah, so I mean, Attack of the Swarm, I think tried to capture some of that because you're just getting hit by all these bugs and all these different types of bugs, different shaped bugs all the time. But it wasn't really campy. The whole thing was really serious when you're playing it, and it
and
was
and
really
really
scary.
deadly in a lot of it,
Yeah,
right? People are getting a lot of
yeah. And so I think something where you made it, but it was a bit campier campaign. I think that was my honorable mention. As I was talking to, I was actually talking to Jason Tondro about things, One of the and even Keeley about it. When you have big battles, big wars against other folks. So, like when you're battling a whole swarm army, it's hard for an individual to stand out, and it ends up a lot of times being like this troop battle, right? And you're
Mm-hmm.
controlling troops and things, and I find that as a RPG player, that's less satisfying to me than an individual battle, and so that's
Yeah.
one reason why I put that as an honorable mention, because I don't. It's harder for me to see you doing that. You're a piece of a small cog in a bigger system, but you can still do a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a real sense. I started. I'll not quite leave Warhammer 40K yet. Um, when I started playing Games Workshop games, I started with Warhammer 40K and then moved to Warhammer Fantasy. And in Warhammer 40K, you've got like squads of dudes or monsters or whatever that are all independent. They have to stay close to each other on the battlefield, but they have a very feel of individuals. Whereas Warhammer Fantasy, everybody's on square bases and they get racked up into like 4x4 blocks of people. And as you lose them, you take them off from the back. And I found that kind of unsatisfying. I'm like, what? I want to be individual dudes. I don't want to be a squad.
Right.
And a friend of mine pointed out, your squad is just a dude, right? It may be high elf spearmen, but it's really, if you think of it as one high elf spear man who is taking more and more hits, and his ability to attack is degrading as he does. I'm like, oh, that does make it feel like that's kind of just one powerful dude.
Yeah.
So maybe it's the way you view
Right.
a unit of troops or something like that might be a little more compelling for you. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Suggestion.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
My honorable mention comes from kind of a weird direction. And my honorable mention is Exodus, which is a forthcoming game by Archetype Studios, I want to say, underneath the Hasbro umbrella. I've seen a couple of trailers for it, and it looks like it's going to be a fairly exciting game, but I didn't get really into it until I picked up a novel called The Archimedes Engine, which was no, I don't remember who wrote it, but it's a fairly popular science fiction author wrote it, and it's set in this universe. And boy, does that really grip me. That book, the general overview, if you're not familiar with it, is that when Earth died, humanity sent out all these generation ships in all these different directions, looking for places they could inhabit. And a bunch of humans did in fact find this whole cluster of worlds that had all been seeded with habitable planets, and they sent out sort of this sort of interstellar announcement: we found our home, come on back. And the very farthest humans who went in the other direction, who got this message and then came back, well, tens of thousands of years had passed in their generation ships and their cryo sleep and so on before they get back. By the time they arrive, the humanity that had sent the message had just super evolved into, frankly, inhuman creatures that sort of rule everything. And as humans show up, it's like, where's even our place in this world where people are 10,000 years advanced ahead of us? And so there's the rough and tumble travelers on the frontiers who are trying to find old space artifacts and stuff. There's a real sense of adventure in a place like
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
inhumanity of the Celestials, which are what people call the humans that have evolved to be something else, have all sorts of powers that might be ascribed to magic or the like. Anyway, just because it's a book I'm 2/3 of the way through and I'm really
Yeah.
fascinated by it. That's my honorable mention pick. Part of the reason I felt like it had to be honorable mention is because there is a
Right.
RPG for this that came
It's
out
not
just recently. I
Starfinder
haven't
second
even looked
edition.
at it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it yet, but I wonder, knowing what I know about sort of this sci-fi game universe, the Starfinder second edition rules, I think would work really well for it.
Right. 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 Good. Now I'm going to go back to my top one. Thanks for
The
correcting
guy
me.
right behind you.
The guy right behind me, The Mandalorian. Everyone knows I'm a big fan of The Mandalorian. And I think you can work magic in there, obviously, from the Star Wars universe. But again, kind of the grittiness, there's high tech, but it's really kind of rough edge high tech, very human stories, very individually driven. Um, I I enjoy it a lot, and be able to play the role of a bounty hunter or many other kind of roles in there. There's mechanics and pilots, and you could be a member of the rebellion, you could be a member of the empire, all kinds of different things you could do. Um, I think that would be fun, and I think obviously you could take Starfinder Second Edition and build the rule set and put it in that context pretty straightforward. That would be, in fact, if I run a homebrew, that's probably what I'm doing for you. You probably already know that. That'll be fun. So
Well, one of the things that I really like about that choice, one of the things I really like about the Mandalorian, is that it's fundamentally about building something better, right? He's not just a bounty hunter. He's a bounty hunter with a
yeah,
code who gets the opportunity to save this weird little critter and protect this weird little critter. He's trying to kind of make everything better when his people in particular are so scattered.
right.
Um, and the people who are trying to make the world better. Carl Weathers' character in that one, right? They're
Yeah,
trying to sort of tame the frontier and make things better for people. That's what heroism looks like in that game, in that
yeah,
IP. And I think I like games where that's what heroism looks
yeah,
like in the game.
yeah.
So I absolutely understood.
Nice.
My number one also comes from something else that I'm currently enjoying. A little bit of a weird choice, but bear with me here. Did you see the series Raised by Wolves
I
on
I
HBO Max?
I've seen bits and pieces of it. I haven't seen. I know what it's about. Yeah.
It is. I started watching. We just got Apple TV, mostly so we could watch Severance. But I started watching a show called Murderbot, which is
Yes.
about settlers on the frontier in space and so on, and about this sort of put upon sentry droid. I don't. I don't love it.
Hmm.
Everything that's good about Murderbot reminded me of all the awesome stuff I really liked about Raised by Wolves a couple of years ago.
Hmm.
I saw Raised by Wolves by myself and didn't watch it with my wife, but the more I talk about how Murderbot is making me remember how good Raised by Wolves was, we're going to be watching Raised by Wolves again.
Well, good.
And that world has this sort of like the earth that they leave in this has this sort of religious faction
Right.
war that has destroyed Earth. And I think that a war type setting. You talked about Attack of the Swarm. You talked about Starship Troopers. I think is a real compelling place to set a game, and we know Starfinder Second Edition can
Right.
do it. But something that's set with this kind of religious war that's sort of tearing humanity apart. And how do you either set yourself aside from that to try to fix things that doesn't work out in this world in the series, so how do you combine yourself with that? How do you again build something better? I think that could actually be a really interesting game world in which to be adventuring. It's Starfinder Second Edition. It does have a little bit of the what's magic in this world. Well,
Right.
maybe it's super high tech, like the androids that have the sort of
Yeah.
impossible to defeat high tech. Maybe where magic comes in. I don't know, but that's going to be my sort of unexpected and out there number one choice.
It's funny. I haven't watched that series mostly because I don't know that my wife would enjoy watching it just from the clips I've seen. But when I've looked at it, it reminded me a bit about Torg Eternity because of the big religious faction in there doing
Oh
stuff.
yeah, that's right.
So I'm thinking, of
And the
course, Ron
cyber
is going to like
papacy and the
this.
fight there.
Yes,
That
yes,
that's true. Yeah,
yeah,
I you see me. I feel seen, John. Thank
yeah,
you. That's maybe that's part of the reason that I really
yes.
sort of latched onto that.
For
So much
those,
so that when some other later show
yeah,
reminds me of it,
yes.
yep,
For those who don't know, Ron really, really loves Torg Eternity. So,
I do. I do.
and that Murder Bot, I've saw the clips for that too, and I'm kind of interested in that as well. So, what is your take on that?
I don't much mind it, but after every episode, I'm like, this is just making me like Raised by Wolves, which is Murderbot's funny, and Raised by
Okay,
Wolves is not funny. It's
right,
very grim in a lot of ways.
right, and that's why I didn't think my
Um,
wife would like it as much.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I would watch. I don't. I think I made it 5 episodes into. I got as far as it was available to me, and I have not caught up.
right.
But
Very good.
It is. One thing that really surprises me, we didn't duplicate any on our
I
lists.
know. I was thinking, and I was not even intentionally trying not to do that. I just went through, and all of these just from the era that I grew up. That's where these were a lot of the popular sci-fi things that
Mhm.
obviously came up.
Well, I intentionally didn't pick Star Trek or Star
Me
Wars.
too.
I thought
Me
those
too.
would probably be a little bit. And I know a lot of people who would put something like Doctor Who
Right.
into
Yeah.
this onto their lists, but I don't know Doctor Who well enough
Yep.
myself to put it on
Same.
my list. So
Yeah. No, I
I'm
think this
interested
is.
what Jason would put
I
on
know. I
his.
know. I know. I wish he were here because he always has some really nice takes on things. So
Yep.
hopefully Jason is listening, and at the start of the next episode, he'll just run them off really quick.
Just run his even if it's only 3 like me, even if he takes the lazy way out like I did.
Yes, for sure. And I was thinking for next time, and I'll just prime you in the audience. Next time is going to be right at Gen Con is when it's going to be released, right around then, I think.
Okay.
So we'll record it before Gen Con.
Didn't we joke about getting together and recording it at Gen
I don't
Con?
think we're going to do that. I don't think we're
You
going
don't
to
want
do
to
that.
bring all your stuff and yeah,
No.
okay.
Well, I could, but I don't think it's going to work. Um, I was thinking we would talk about what we want to go play, see at Gen Con. Because there's a couple of things I'm really excited to see and check out there besides what I'm running. And we could talk about that. We talked about that last Gen Con, so I thought we could talk
Mhm.
about it this Gen Con as well.
Let's do it. I'm doing Gen Con very differently this year, so
I know,
that'll be good for me. So, and
I
you're doing
know,
it very differently this year.
I know. I wish I was doing it more like you. In the future, I probably will do that.
Well, we'll
But
see.
we'll see. All right. Well, this has been great. This is it worked out.
Just like the old times.
It's like the old times. I'm John.
And I'm Ron, and this is Digital Divination.